Yeah, so the idea of this is it's like a fireside chat. So maybe let's start with the three of you presenting yourself. What are your names and what do you do at Education Perfect?
I'm Emma, so I'm the head of operations at Education Perfect. I've been at Education Perfect for just over 5 years. And I started in the business when it was really small and we didn't have a core support function. So my role over the first few years at Education Perfect was to basically build up that support team from the ground up and start to build out that function within our business.
My name's Tobin and I'm the head of enrollments at EP. So my team looks after all the classes and the teacher accounts and things like that. I've been at EP a little over 4 years. I started out making a bit of the content and I've also sort of worked in the finance team as well. And now I'm in the support sort of aspect. So I've seen lots of different faces of EP over the years.
I was about to say, you've seen everything.
And my name is Reanne. I'm currently the inbound team manager. So I look after the team who deal with all of the incoming correspondence. So yeah, I've been with EP for a little bit of a shorter time, only I think 2 years. But I started off in the inbound team, sort of dealing with teachers and customers and helping them out, and then just sort of made my way through the team. And now looking after everyone.
How many people are there at Education Perfect at the moment?
We 160 plus.
Oh, wow.
We've got 100, just around 100 in our hub in our HQ in Dunedin, New Zealand, and further 50 to 60 that are remote working across Australia, New Zealand, Singapore as well. And we've got a team in the Philippines that are sit in Reanne's support space.
And how many of these are support agents?
We've got about 15 across both teams. Tobin's team in particular, as well, at the beginning of the year, where we have, and predominantly for Australia and New Zealand schools, where they come back for their new academic year and they want to get their classes reset. So we've got about a 4 to 6 week period to enroll around about 1 million students on the platform and get them into their right classes and do matching to make sure that Tim Smith still gets the same account this year that he had last year so that all his progress is tracked. So there's a lot of playing around with the data to make sure that it's all in a good format to input into our system to then enroll the students and very quickly get them up to speed so that they can get the most out of their Education Perfect subscription for the year. So they're a big team at the start of the year, usually fixed term contracts, quite handy. We can work in with Otago University in Dunedin to bring on students that are on their summer break that are looking for some work experience. And we end up this year in particular, got quite a few students that came on board and some of them we extended out for a bit longer. A lot of them, in the past have moved into permanent roles at EP once they finish their studies. Which is cool. So we've got a good partnership with Otago University as well in that sense.
That means that the pandemic actually came at a good time for you because the biggest part was already over, I suppose. If January is like your crunch time.
It was really interesting because we call it our registration season and it's crazy busy, and then we hit term 1 holidays for Australia and New Zealand schools, and that's our downtime and Easter, and the team know that that's your break. That's when it starts to get quiet, and we look for what we call like our projects work or quiet jobs, and the team get a bit of a break from just constant support volumes. And this year we just didn't get it at all. And as soon as schools, and we had it really early, first of all from the Chinese schools as they started to close, free access. So that was about 9 weeks ago now. We first of all started to get a lot of activity from our international schools looking for an online solution as they started to very quickly have to organize themselves into teaching remotely. So things started to really pick up. We'd emailed all of our international contacts on a Friday night, and we came in on the weekend, and we just had our usual staff rostered on. Actually, we just usually have one inbounder, one support person working on Saturday and one on Sunday, because our volumes, they'll trickle in. There's some students, some teachers that are doing things on the weekend, but on the most part it's manageable for one person. And we came into hundreds of of trial requests coming in from international schools. So
Wow.
basically just a handful of us that were online just doing other bits and pieces, just jumped into the support inbox and started processing all these requests. And then from there, I think this has just gone into a massive blur now, but for the past 2 months, it's just been a crazy time, like bigger volumes than we've ever experienced before, ever, even in those registration periods where we've had, enrolling 1 million students on the platform. Nothing beats the volumes that we've had over the last couple of months. It's been incredible for Reanne and Tobin's team, and very quickly brought on 15 new temp staff to help us out, while also onboarding. We'll touch on this. I think one of the questions was around how do we the hiring and onboarding of remotely. We had to do it with 15 temp staff and get them set up. Some of them, thankfully, we had a week in the office before we shifted to working remotely, but a lot of them, it was getting them onboarded, getting them up to speed so that they could get stuck in straight away. And we've always found it a challenge where you're so busy that you don't have the time to hire, you're so busy that you don't have the time to train, but you need more staff, but you don't want to take away from the work that you're doing. And you're constantly in this constant battle with yourself of, no, you need to stop and train or hire, because otherwise you'll never get on top of it. But if I could just get in there and do it myself, I could just smash it.
It gives some kind of like the illusion of control if you're answering the tickets yourself, even though actually in the long run it would be much better to teach like 3 other people to do it for you. That's very true. So you basically had volumes not going down as expected, but going up. And then at the same time, you had to move everybody from your headquarters to remote, because I understand you had headquarters and then you also went remote, basically from one day to the other, or maybe in a space of a week. And you had to hire and train people that you then weren't able to train actually in office, but you also had to do that remote. So it's like, if we want to do it, we do it all at once. Setup.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, I think it was like 14 hours, right? I think we, in New Zealand, we had notification that the senior leadership team sort of started to put some things in motion, and then the government came out and said, we'll have one day at what they deemed level 3, and then the next day would be level 4, which meant full isolation. So everything almost overnight was like, cool, we're all working from home.
Thankfully, we are a business where everything is online. So we use Slack for our communications anyway. We've already got 1/3 of our business is working remotely. So we had all the tools to be able to do that effectively. I think one of the most challenging parts of this move to being remote is staying connected as teams. And we usually get all of like the water cooler moments and the face-to-face interaction in the office. And I think that's certainly what we've found based on getting feedback from the team and running surveys, is that staying connected is what people feel has been the biggest challenge. And we've constantly spoke to managers and the team around how do we continue to bring people together, and how do we help with creating those moments for the teams during this time, because, and it's the same for everyone, quite often you just don't know how long this is going to go for. So you've got a plan for this being the way that we're working for the foreseeable future. And we want to keep the team staying connected, engaged, and feeling like they're part of a team, especially those that are in self-isolation by themselves and are used to that interaction in the office all the time. So that's been a big challenge for us. The team in our survey that we sent out originally, 98% of the team said that they had the tools to be able to work effectively from home, and they were able to continue doing their job effectively from home. So there was no challenge in being able to continue working, which is really good, for staff during this time where lots of people around them are being asked to reduce hours or take pay cuts and so on. So it was good that we're still able to offer that. But the most challenging part was feeling connected during this time.
So how have you then tried to solve this conundrum between staying connected, but also being able to give critical feedback and helping to leverage the knowledge in your support team without destabilizing people that are already in a vulnerable position, because suddenly they are at home, maybe with kids, maybe with parents, maybe haven't talked to anyone and not touched anyone in like weeks at a time. How do you manage this to like keep the personal connection, but also being able to maintain the quality of the support and not letting that slide?
So we, first of all, our CEO and myself, we met with each of the team leads, anybody that is a line manager in the business, and spoke to them about the importance of one-on-ones. And really, a lot of people in the business were already doing them, and maybe it was weekly or fortnightly, but stressed the importance of regular check-ins. So yeah, you have your one-on-one that's your scheduled time in the week, but actually just checking in every now and then and making sure it was face-to-face as well. So the people, you can see them, you can get those social cues, you can get a sense of how they're feeling when you can see them face-to-face. And obviously Reanne and Tobin with their teams and me with my team, you've got those good relationships with them. So hopefully you're able to pick up on when they are, feeling stressed, or they're having a tough day, or they're needing further support, then we can offer that. So definitely that was something that was really pushed by the leadership team at Education Perfect, was, don't feel, and there has been a perception in the past that, there may be too many meetings happening, but actually it's super important to have those check-ins, even when the volumes are super busy. Like, catch up shouldn't be something that are ditched because it's too busy in the inbox. Like, it's just not the way that we should operate. So trying to get the team to understand that we are, don't feel concerned or worried that you think you're in too many meetings if you are a line manager and you've got a large amount of team, as long as you are keeping your team, you're checking in with your team and making sure that they feel supported. But we still, Reanne and Tobin have set up really good processes within their teams. Tobin, you want to talk to your daily huddles, because that's something that you brought in with your space, which wasn't something that you were doing before this.
Yeah, so we used to meet, Reanne and our teams combined meet once a week in two separate meetings, like the Dunedin-based guys and the Manila-based guys. But pretty early on, my team decided to have some daily huddles just for 5-10 minutes, just cover over in the morning what everyone's layout is for the rest of the day, who's got other commitments that they, little side projects that they need to do urgently or things like that, and also sort of wrap up with a bit of well-being chat as well. How's everybody doing? How's everyone feeling? And video's got to be on so everybody gets that face-to-face interaction. And almost immediately had really good feedback from the team saying these are really valuable, not only for covering off work stuff, but for the social element. And I think this is obviously not your average working from home situation, and people are struggling with all the other outside stresses that go along with this current climate we're in. And so people really have taken to that just daily catch up with another human being. I have a couple of people on my team who who live alone, and so they work alone and they don't have any outside contact. And we have Slack and things like that, sort of text-based communication. But the video daily huddles have turned out to be really valuable in keeping people in the loop, keeping them feeling connected. It's just almost a free time to chat to your friends. What have you been up to? And they've been organizing sort of game nights and catch ups via Discord and other sort of gaming platforms and shared interest and things like that, which is cool. And it's been really kind of I don't want to say it was a surprise, because that was what I hoped to get out of it, but it's been encouraging that has been the result of it, that the team's been really into it, and it has been quite well received. Yeah.
How many people are on the team?
So 4 plus me, and then a couple of temps, so 7. So it's just a quick, who's doing what are our volumes looking like today? Do we have any sort of urgent stuff that we need to cover off? And then normally the conversation will divert to
other things,
stuff,
as usually happens.
And I was upfront with them about it initially anyway, saying, look, we'll obviously talk about work, and this is a work meeting, but don't feel that you can't. This is also provides a social kind of gathering as well, and people feel comfortable talking about, what their weekends were or some problems they've been having with their flatmates and things like that. So yeah, it has been quite valuable.
So how does Klaus slot into your feedback, quality improvement, day-to-day work when you're so swamped with things to do?
The really powerful thing about, I'm going to have to say it properly now because this is being recorded, Klaus, is that, because in a New Zealand accent, it's like claws, like a cat claw. But yeah, Klaus is that it lifted a lot of the time investment away from the quality assurance that we would have to sink in doing it, the manual process we used to have. So even though we're doing the same amount, it's just so much quicker. There's you don't have to store it in multiple places. You don't have to sort of, I say manually, but using Slack, Slack somebody or call them, or obviously you can't physically go and see them at the moment, but that's what we'd have to do is, maybe give them a quick call about if something went horribly wrong. Now Klaus is just such an easy, almost automatic way of doing stuff. The feedback's automatically delivered. It's so easy to kind of get the gist of how you graded that ticket with the thumbs up, thumbs down. Obviously, I try and comment on everything as well, on everyone I do. And then, if things do go bad, then, you still reach for the phone. But it just takes such a large chunk of the time away. It's just such an automatic, easy thing to do that, we might shave off sort of the number of tickets that we might check. But it's still easy to find, half an hour in your week to do, a handful, when normally an hour I might only get through like half a dozen or something like that, previously. So yeah, just for me anyway, it's so automatic and easy that it doesn't really take any time. You spend the time actually checking things, and then the feedback element of it is just like click, done, and it's which is really nice.
One of the parts that really appealed to me when we started to look in, when Tobin started to review that, was the direct feedback going to that person and not just sitting on a support ticket. And I'd imagine right now, where the team are already feeling under a lot of pressure because you look at that support inbox and there's 180 tickets that are waiting to be answered, when you've got a team and you look around and there's a team of 15 or 12 of you smashing through emails all day, every day, and there's still that massive backlog, and it just feels like you're making no progress. And then if you then went into your tag and saw an email that's also got, a few other of their business developers or teacher consultants in that thread, and you've got a bit of feedback from the manager being like, you've made this mistake, or hey, this needs to be improved, when you're already feeling stressed, and then you see that, and then you're thinking, oh, now everyone's seen that I have that feedback, or that I made that mistake. Again, that's just not going to help the situation right now. So knowing that that's going privately to them, they don't have to overthink of who's seen this, and it's direct from the manager. There's comments around how to improve. It's done in a really constructive way. Like, that's a huge win for us in terms of giving really good feedback that's personal, that is done in like a safe environment, that's not, everyone in the company seeing that they've potentially made a mistake in that email. So that's adding a lot of value, I'm sure, right now, and not adding to the stress levels that the team already have.
The way that we're working at the moment remotely, obviously Klaus is fantastic, and you can give that direct feedback and they can reply to you as well, which is awesome. But I guess I would also stress the fact that those one-on-ones in the team meetings and stuff are also an important part of that feedback, I guess, because it sort of just adds a little bit of awareness as well. Like in our team meetings weekly, we'll sort of talk about like any errors that have come up over the week. We would obviously don't like say names or anything or point fingers, but we just sort of talk about like the gaps and maybe just spread that knowledge around the team, just so there is a bit more visibility across the entire team as well.
Yeah, even when we're all in the office, we just still use Klaus because we're just so shackled to Slack that it's just so it integrated so smoothly that it was just, the way of doing business, so now it's just you're reading your Klaus feedback from home rather than from your desk.
We already have a remote team in Manila, so we were used to working with that remote team. It's just now having all of our team remote. So we were using that really effectively with them as well. So,
I think that makes a huge difference already having some kind of experience before the disaster struck.
Yeah, and just sort of sitting aside from the platform and its functionality as well, as just the support's been really good. Like when we were sort of investigating, which Emma sort of touched on, investigating other sort of quality assurance apps and stuff, I had quite a bit to do with Chris, and he was awesome, and we did some demos together. And even when I message him with, hey, I don't know how this works, or this seems to be broken, you know, like even though the time zone sort of skews things a little bit, you know, he'll just email me back when he's got the time, and he's just been so helpful, which is really comforting when, you know, this is essentially the sole anchor of all of our quality, you know, assurance stuff now, that if there's something wrong, you know, he's so quick to jump on any problems and stuff. And I think I just wanted to sort of, I guess, chat a little bit about some of because I think it's easy to kind of get caught up in the negativity of what's going on, but it has also highlighted a lot of positives. You know, like we moved so smoothly to remote work. I think it's got to be encouraging for us senior leadership to know that, oh yeah, what we've got, the base of what we've got is quite resilient to any sort of major disruption. And I also have been quite encouraged by, maybe empathy is the right word. I know one of my colleagues sort of mentioned in quite a large company chat one time that now everybody knows what it's like to work from home. And before, I think there was definitely that, you know, there was a misalignment of, you know, if you're the only person on a video call and then there's 20 other people in one room, it's hard to get it's hard to get the word out. You know, you feel, you know, that you're not on it's not an even playing field and stuff. And now people, I think, really understand that. And I think I, for one, would be quite happy I think it's probably quite cool if we just moved forward like this and just, this was how meetings were. It really levels the playing field for those that are remote. I think people cared, but maybe they wouldn't voice it before. And now everyone's acutely aware of, oh, I'm struggling, therefore other people are struggling, you know? And it's sort of, I think it's given us the opportunity as a business to be like, cool, these things we did really well. You know, like I was just saying, we moved to working remotely really well, but there's also a few things we can improve on, you know, that have come out of this. And I think the three of us have been looking at a few different projects that will hopefully have long-term benefits that we probably wouldn't have pushed to the forefront if they hadn't become so obvious in the current environment. So yeah, while it's, you know, certainly trying times, I don't think it's all doom and gloom. And I think, you know, companies like Klaus and many other ones that are helping businesses stay afloat and keep going, I think adds a lot of value to this sort of remote world that, you know, whether it becomes increasingly likely, I don't know, but I think it's opened a lot of people's eyes to show that, you know, maybe the brick and mortar stuff isn't as important as we thought it was, or at least not as necessary for the business to function. Yeah, so I think there's certainly a lot of important takeaways from what we're going through.
Yeah, I do hope that many companies do like a retrospective afterwards and then maybe get to the conclusion that, I mean, you don't have to go all the way only remote or all the way only in office. There are like a million hybrid options that you could offer. And then not offering it as a perk or as a differentiator, but like, hey, if you are more productive at home, stay home or go to a coffee shop or do 3 days here and 2 days there, or like mix and match as you need it. And then just make sure that everything is in place in a way that you are not at a disadvantage if you're not in the office. Okay, then I'm not going to take away more of your time. Thank you very much for tuning in.